Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you at this hour. Stock markets consolidate after hitting record highs yesterday. 90% of mid-cap and small-cap stocks tumble as the rally comes to a halt. Mid-cap index posts the biggest single-day fall in 2023. Inflation eases in August to 6.8% ahead of estimates, but prices remain above the RBI's tolerance band. Food inflation cools to single digits. Industrial output accelerates 5.7% ahead of expectations.
डीजल और पेट्रोल को कम करने का अब मेरे को एक ही लगता है कि बस 10% एडिशनल पोल्यूशन टैक्स लगाए बिना जल्दी कुछ ये ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन की स्पीड नहीं बढ़ेगी.
Speaking at a SIAM conference, Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari warns he may seek an additional GST on diesel engines to push auto companies to speed up phasing out. Follows this up with a tweet saying no such proposal is currently under active consideration by the government.
I don't think Minister was serious really about it, but it was more of a provocation.
I think it's a directional statement by the Honorable Minister, and you could sense it when he was saying that.
Automakers tell CNBC-TV18 any change in taxation won't be good for industry. Seek incentives on the use of alternate fuel vehicles rather than higher taxation. Global and domestic sugar prices continue to rise due to supply concerns. The Indian government has asked sugar mills to submit sales data as the government weighs potential export curbs to rein in prices. The Supreme Court refers pleas challenging the Sedition Law to a larger bench of at least 5 judges, rejects the government's request to defer the hearing due to the introduction of a new bill in Parliament. The Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia confirms the Nipah virus has killed 2 people in Kerala. The Chief Minister says the state is taking all measures to contain the spread. Thousands of people are feared dead and 10,000 are missing after unprecedented flooding in Libya. The Red Cross says a quarter of the port city of Derna has been wiped out after 2 dams burst. North Korean leader Kim Jongun arrives in Russia in an armored train for a summit with President Putin. This is his first foreign trip since the COVID pandemic. The India head of IBM, Sandeep Patel, calls for regulations to ensure artificial intelligence is good for society at large and businesses. Says industry has started an active conversation with the government on framing the rules to govern AI. Apple is set to launch new products tonight. The rumor mill is rife with speculation about a potential iPhone 15 and a new iWatch. Well, that is what is coming up later tonight. But first up, the market action. A day after scaling new peaks, bulls digested the gains on the Lal Street. The sensex and the Nifty ended marginally in the red today. But it was the mid-caps that have seen a sharp rally that reported a sharp sell-off. In fact, 90% of the mid-cap and small-cap stocks declined in trade today. Now, the fall in the mid-cap index has been the biggest single-day fall that we've seen in 2023 so far. The small-cap index also reporting a 4% fall, as you can see there on your screens, the worst decline that we've seen in this year so far. Anuj joins us now to wrap up what we are seeing with the market. Anuj, more on the valuation, especially for mid-caps and small-caps.
Where is the comfort right now? And obviously the comfort is with the large caps, not really with the mid caps. Look, the Nifty is expensive, but not in bubble zone by any stretch of imagination. Nifty is 20.3 times 1-year forward earnings, and 10-year average has been about 18 times. It's the mid cap which is the problem. 25.2 times. By the way, that also is not bubble territory, which Prashant has been highlighting, and I'll go to him as well. The 10-year average is 20.1 times. Small cap at 20 times versus 16.6 times, which is the 10-year average. And the Nifty bank is actually undervalued right now, 14.2 times versus 16 times. Talking about the Nifty, where have the recent peaks been? And I'm talking about just the recent peaks, the last 8 or 10 years. In 2015, it was 23 times. In 2019, it was 24.5 times. And in 2021, it is 23 times. Considering we are at 20 times right now, another 3 notches could mean another 1,500 to 2,000 points in the Nifty minimum. I'm not saying we go there, but not quite there in terms of bubble territory. Now, there's some interesting things that I'm looking at. Some sectors which are trading at a premium valuation. And no surprise for guessing, a lot of them are mid-cap names, infrastructure, chemicals, real estate, and PSU banks, they're all trading at a premium compared to their own valuations. And sectors trading at discount, there's telecom, there's media, there's private banks, which is interesting, and there's metals. But you know what, there's one more metric which I look at, the number of stocks hitting new highs and new lows. That number has still not reached alarming proportion, 244 new highs and 15 new lows. And finally, some stocks where there's valuation comfort versus some stocks where there's discomfort. First to the stocks where there's some comfort, and you'll see a lot of pharma names there, Apollo Hospitals, Dr. Reddy's, and some PSU names despite the rally, BPCL, ONGC, and some commodity names like Coal India and UPL, and stocks which are now trading above their median valuations or recent average multiples. A lot of IT names after the recent rally, HCL Tech in particular, Infosys, Titan, which is trading at 20% premium, and Reliance, largely because, you know, earlier Reliance was pure oil and gas play. Now it's a lot of new age play. That's why as well.
Yeah, that is right, Anuj. Many thanks for joining us there to give us a look at the market internals in terms of valuation. As Anuj was pointing out, room further, whether the Nifty moves higher or not is the big question, but there is room further given the 10-year average as far as P is concerned for the Nifty to move higher. The mid-cap is telling you a different story. So how should you position yourself in the market at these levels? Experts that we've been speaking to believe that the rally does have more legs, but many sound a word of caution, especially on the mid-caps and small caps, which have run up more than 30% in the last 6 months. Listen in.
I feel where the market is heading or what my targets were, I see that there is still more upside going ahead. As I said, there's a lot of panic, there's a lot of talk of bubble, and there's a lot of talk of all that. I don't think we are anywhere near bubble territory. I think that there is more upside. And what I say is that you've seen 11% and you're like getting so this thing that we can have another 8, 10, 9, 10%, you know. And a lot of people say that, oh, you want to sell out this segment, we should get out, blah, blah, blah. You never know. You could be missing a more interesting part in the market.
I think this move in mid-small caps up nearly 35 to 40% since last 6 months, when globally Fed is tightening, balance sheet is contracting, would be a bit worrisome. So again, that's something we've been doing since, I would say, last 2-3 months. Look at our mid-cap portfolio, some of these mid-cap names, whether it's hospitals, real estate, or other sectors. Look, we've owned them for 5-7 years, but look, valuations look kind of fairly full here. So what we're doing is top slicing probably 10-15% and moving that to large caps.
Well, that's reactions to the market, but let's talk about macros. The big economic indicator this evening, inflation easing in the month of August to 6.8%. This is better than estimate, but prices still remain above the Reserve Bank's tolerance band. Food inflation has cooled to single digits, while industrial output has accelerated 5.7%, which is higher than expectations. Lata's here to take us through the inflation fine print. Lata, relief coming in.
It's the pleasantest set of data that markets and the economy and the policymakers can expect. Growth is a little better than expected in terms of the July industrial output, but more importantly, inflation is a little lower than expected. At 6.83, it's a good, 25 basis points lower than what our poll threw up at 7.08. The July number, 7.44. So it's like over 60 basis points lower than the July number, the inflation for August. So this will be greeted by markets and by the policymakers as positive. What has helped this lower than expected inflation is basically vegetable prices. Vegetable prices were 37% higher year on year. This time they are up about 26% year on year, but there has been a fall in August over July. The negatives from the inflation number is that cereals are higher. Cereals are still up about 11.85% and pulses are up over 13%. So those will be the two negative points, negative takeaways. The overall food inflation has come down from 11.5% YOY in July to 9.94% in the month of August. The fact that there are two sticky elements, pulses and cereals, are still double digits and quite firmly in double digits is going to worry policymakers. You will continue to expect the Reserve Bank to keep liquidity tight. Even now, the call rate is slightly closer to what you call the MSF rate. It's not at the repo rate because liquidity is tight. It will get tighter because advance tax payments only will gather steam as we get to September 15th. So you are going to see a cautious central banking activity, keeping liquidity tight, But overall, the number is better than expected, and core inflation, which the central bank tracks very closely, has come in at 4.85, lower than the 4.9 in July. That also will be good news for both markets and the policymakers. But nothing is going to change on the ground. Bond markets still will be captives to liquidity tightening by the central bank. That's the word from the experts. Quickly on industrial output at 5.7% is better than our poll of 5.2%. And what's clicked over there is electricity. Electricity at 8% is a very good number. Manufacturing just 4.6. Within manufacturing, consumer non-durables has done well. It's usually the informal rural sector that's come at 7.4, which is good, but consumer durables has not done well. Consumer non-durables is good largely because of base effect. But overall, the message is positive, both for stock markets and bond markets. Inflation lower than expected should cheer both markets. Growth slightly better than expected should definitely cheer the stock markets.
Yes, it definitely is a cause for cheer. Lata, many thanks for joining us. And speaking of inflation, global sugar prices on the rise, and the government is weighing options. Sugar stocks slipping in trade on the last day to furnish sales data to the government. Sugar mills have been asked to furnish data on sales from the months of May to August. The government is likely weighing export curbs to rein in prices.
ISO right now is expecting a much reduced surplus for 22-23 and a deficit for 23-24. That, of course, bodes well for prices. See, the timing of the government releasing the authorizations for export is key. And, you know, if that doesn't happen in an agile fashion, then we will have a problem. And I think that right now, the fluidity of Indian exports needs to be improved. I think it's going in the right direction.
Well, that is the outlook as far as sugar prices are concerned, and we are awaiting clarity on whether the government intends to bring in export curbs or not. Now, a report by SBI Research shows that India has created 5.2 crore payrolls in the last 4 years. The report cites data from the EPFO and NPS and also states that 47% of these are new subscribers. This indicates a faster rate of formalization of jobs. CNBC-TV18 News Break now confirmed nearly 3% equity of L&T Finance has changed hands in a block deal today. This transaction amounts to 7 crore shares of the company. Sources have said that Bain Capital is likely to be the seller of the stake of up to 850 crore rupees, which totals to about 2.62% of its total equity that it holds in the company. This floor price of the deal was likely to be set as nearly 130 rupees per share, which is 0.5% of a discount from yesterday's closing price. Coal India will make a capital investment of over 24,000 crore rupees on 61 first-mile connectivity projects. The company has said the project will be set up in 3 phases and it will involve coal transportation and mechanized piped conveyors from the production point into rail wagons. The big corporate story this evening: in a bid to phase out diesel vehicles, Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari warning automakers that he will seek additional GST on diesel engines. Now, he was speaking at a SIAM annual convention. Minister Gadkari said he will meet the finance minister later this evening. This is what he said this morning, and will place a request to impose an additional 10% GST on diesel-powered vehicles in the future. The minister also said that industry needs to reduce its production of diesel vehicles, and if not, the government will be forced to hike taxes. Listen in.
The 63rd SIAM convention kicked off in New Delhi with all top automotive CEOs in attendance. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari made a big headline here when he said that he would write to the finance minister to consider an additional 10% GST on diesel vehicles. He urged the industry to quickly phase out diesel vehicles or face the consequences of high taxation. Listen in to what he said.
G20 में हमने ग्लोबल अलायंस में बायोफ्यूल ग्लोबल अलायंस का जो हमने करार उसकी स्वाक्षरी की है, वो अपने आप में एक हिस्टोरिकल है और पोल्यूशन ये बहुत गंभीर समस्या है और पोल्यूशन के कारण हमारे स्वास्थ्य के ऊपर भी बहुत विपरीत परिणाम हो रहा है। आज शाम को 5:30 बजे वित्त मंत्री मेरे घर पर एक मीटिंग के लिए आने वाली है और मैं उनको रिक्वेस्ट करने वाला हूं कि आने वाले समय में डीजल से जो भी इंजन चलाते हैं उसके ऊपर एडिशनल 10% जीएसटी लगाओ ताकि जल्दी जल्दी इसका ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन होगा, नहीं तो लोग जल्दी सुनने के मूड में नहीं है। आप डीजल का प्रोडक्शन कम करिए, और इसलिए मैं नहीं तो कम नहीं होगा तो टैक्स बढ़ाना पड़ेगा। तो मैं आपसे अनुरोध करूंगा कि ये एक अच्छा साइन है। डीजल बहुत ही हजार्डस फ्यूल है, हम बहुत बड़े प्रमाण पे इंपोर्ट भी करते हैं, तो डीजल को बाय कैसा भी करके आप बाय करिए। मैं आपको ये बहुत नम्रतापूर्वक रिक्वेस्ट से करूंगा, नहीं तो BS6 जैसा डीजल का भी हाल ऐसा ही होगा कि बस आप करते रहिए, हम इतना टैक्स बढ़ा देंगे कि आपको बेचना मुश्किल हो जाएगा। तो ये डीजल व्हीकल को आप ही सुमोटो इनिशिएटिव लेकर आप कर भी रहे हैं, इसीलिए 18% पे आया। तो धीरे धीरे ये हमारे लिए बहुत अच्छा प्रोग्राम होगा।
Soon after making that statement before industry leaders here at the SIAM convention, the minister clarified on Twitter that there was no such proposal under active consideration within the government.
It was more of a push towards sustainability. So he was making out a case that the industry should do more work on sustainability. They should prefer more and more alternate fuels which are more sustainable.
I think what the minister said was more of a provocation, more of a message that I think the efforts have to be enhanced in this direction, and the country needs that.
See, I'm seeing out of the larger message. His larger message is that we have to move towards zero emission technology, right? And zero emission technology cannot be transitioned overnight.
Well, that is the back and forth on diesel. You can catch the entire show at 9:30 p.m. right here on CNBC-TV18. Cash-strapped airline SpiceJet has completed the payment of 100 crore rupees owed to Kalanthi Maran's Carl Airways. This is in line with the Delhi High Court's order to SpiceJet's promoter Ajay Singh. Now, over 77 crore rupees were paid yesterday. The remaining dues were cleared today. The next hearing in this case is scheduled to take place on the 3rd of October. Aerospace and Defence Major has said that an engine manufacturing flaw in its Pratt & Whitney unit will hit its pre-tax results this quarter by $3 billion. The company has also said that hundreds of aircraft engines will need to be removed for inspections until 2027. The flaw stems from defects with powder metal used to make some of the Pratt & Whitney geared turbofan engines. Global investment firm KKR will invest over 2,000 crore rupees in Reliance Retail to raise its stake to 1.42%. Now, this investment will increase Reliance Retail's valuation to over 8,300 crore rupees, positioning it among the top 4 companies in India in terms of equity value. We are going to head into a break here on India Business Hour, but up next, the Supreme Court refers pleas challenging the Sedition Law to a larger bench of at least 5 judges, rejects the government's request to defer the hearing due to the introduction of a new bill in Parliament. You can catch all of our stories and updates on Facebook, on X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. You'll find us on each of these platforms. Well, you continue to watch India Business Hour. Now, the government has confirmed that 2 people have died in Kerala after contracting the Nipah virus. Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia has said a team of experts have been sent to the state to assess the situation. The Kerala government has begun locating people who have been in high-risk contact with the suspected patients. In more national news, 3 people have reportedly been killed in a fresh instance of violence in Manipur. According to state security officials, the 3 villagers from Kuki Zomi community were gunned down while travelling. Bajrang Dal member Monu Manesar has been arrested for allegedly inciting violence in the New district. Police officials have said that Manesar was sent to 14 days of judicial custody by a new court. A video clip has surfaced online showing plainclothes policemen taking Manesar into custody. Now, the Supreme Court has referred pleas challenging the Sedition Law to a larger bench of at least 5 judges. The court has rejected the government's request to defer the hearing due to the introduction of a new bill in Parliament. Ashmit is standing by now to take us through the details. Ashmit, what has the Supreme Court said? What are we now looking at?
Well, the sedition provision, Section 124A of the IPC, was back in focus. The Supreme Court had deciding that this is a matter that warrants further consideration, that warrants hearing, needs to be heard, and needs to be heard by a bench of no less than 5 judges or more. That's the decision that the Supreme Court arrived at, that a constitution bench of the Apex Court is required to hear and deliberate on this matter. Now, the Supreme Court was hearing a batch of applications that have challenged the constitutionality of the sedition provision under the IPC. Now, it is here that the centre had argued that, look, we already have a new legislation in place. What's the need for hearing this case? Well, to that end, the petitioner had responded by saying, Kapil Sibal as well as Arvind Dattar had argued that this, even the new law that has come out, it's not done away with the sedition provision entirely, that it features once again as Section 150, that the newer provisions under the new law are even more draconian, and that importantly they argue that even if there is a new law in place, criminal law works prospectively. It will have no bearing on the sedition cases that have already been filed and are being prosecuted by various state governments. Now, importantly, the centre, Solicitor General as well as the Attorney General argued that, look, this is a matter where the Parliament is seized of it, and that in better sense, the wisdom will prevail if the Supreme Court defers the hearing in this matter and allows for the Parliament to decide. That is one request that the Apex Court did not agree to. The Supreme Court has rejected that request by the centre and has said that this is a matter that needs to be decided now, and needs to be decided by a bench of 5 judges or more. So that's the rationale, that's the verdict coming in from the top court.
Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. So the Supreme Court referring the petition on the sedition law to a larger bench. Now, the Union Minister of State for Electronics and IT, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, says that the government is setting up a special organisation to help other countries adopt India's digital public infrastructure. This comes after India showcased the success of its digital infrastructure at the G20 summit. Speaking with Ashmit, the minister said Digital India Act will be ready soon.
Now the countries of the world have absolutely no doubt about the power of technology in general and the power of DPIs, because India is a living, breathing, shining example of how 1 billion Indians have been brought into mainstream governance. DPIs would be accepted by the G20 countries, the framework would be agreed to, the principles would be agreed to, and that there would be an agreement that India would host a global repository of DPIs. So for all the DPIs of the world, all the countries' DPIs could be put in one place, so that all the countries of the global south who need access to these technologies can easily take those technologies and implement them. Today, almost 18 to 20 other countries that have evinced interest in this. We also have to be sure that we have built the capacity and the capability. As you know, almost a year ago or 8 months ago, we started the framework of India DPI developers ecosystem, so that more and more startups join and are available to help countries and help people to implement these DPIs in their countries. So we are certainly embarked on that. We are creating a separate organization within the ministry that will focus only on implementing these DPIs in these countries. Number one on crypto, and the second is on AI. And on crypto, as you know, there is a recognition in the New Delhi Declaration that crypto is not just crypto, that there needs to be a globally harmonized approach towards regulating crypto, and that the central bank governors of the different countries and the finance ministers will sit down, possibly in the October 2023 meeting, and evolve or start to evolve a framework for crypto. So I think that has been our position from 2021. If you remember, this is what the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister said. We are ready. We have to go through a process before the consultation starts. The draft is ready, and the consultation will be commenced fairly soon. I can't give you a precise date on it, but I can certainly tell you that we are ready to go.
Rajiv Chandrasekhar there. Now the big international story. Thousands of people have been killed and over 10,000 people are missing after catastrophic floods hit the eastern Libyan city of Derna. The Red Cross Federation has said that nearly 25% of the city has been wiped out after 2 dams burst. The death toll from the earthquake that struck Morocco last week has now crossed 2,800. Rescue operations continue, but some villages are yet to receive any help as roads are blocked due to landslides. The rescue workers are facing difficulties in digging out survivors as the traditional mud, brick, stone and rough wood houses have crumbled. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has arrived in Russia in an armoured train for a summit with President Vladimir Putin. This is his first foreign trip since the COVID-19 pandemic. Russian state media has said the two leaders will discuss trade and economic issues. Back home, the India head of IBM, Sandeep Patel, has called for regulations to ensure that artificial intelligence is good for society at large and businesses. Speaking to Shilpa Ranipeta, Patel said that industry has started an active conversation with the government on framing rules to govern AI. Take a look.
The Indian market has always been a very critical part of any technological evolution that IBM has done. Look at some of the elements that have come out of the G20. There is a very conscious recognition of the fact that ethical AI is important to drive, not just for India, but for the world, right? We have been very active in that dialogue.
Sandeep Patel there on AI regulations. He, of course, is the head of IBM in India. Now, the new uniforms for Parliament staff has taken the internet by storm, and not for the right reasons. The staff will be dressed in what looks like a kurta pajama, as well as a sari for the special session that will be held in the new Parliament building. The design and colours of the new uniforms have triggered a mixed response from the Twitterati. Well, with that, it is a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Do tweet us, do write to us with your feedback and your comments, and do watch us on YouTube, on TV, and on all of our social media platforms. From all of us here for now, goodbye. Thanks for watching.